Yeah, buongiorno a tutti. Come Venanzio ha detto, sono Marcus, sono designer presso Braun da 15 anni, ma penso che è una buona idea continuare in inglese perché il mio italiano è troppo poverino. Ok. So what I did, I can show you now, I give you a little bit of an introduction about Braun, the company Braun. I heard from Venanzio that you did already a little bit of a research about Braun products. What I can provide you today is a more deeper background on the design philosophy, on the products, on the, I would call it a big history of Braun. That's what I prepared here. And also in addition, I would love to give you a little bit of a glimpse of our design process. How usually we start a project, how usually we start a design. I think maybe it's not super special at Braun, but we have our own way and we have our own DNA on this. Okay, so let's start. Braun. So Braun is a very famous company in Germany, worldwide, I believe, and it all started in 1921 with this gentleman. It is Max Braun. He started producing transmission belts for big industry machines which transfer the movement of a motor onto like machines, hammering, sewing, all those kind of things. Very soon he stepped into the electric appliance world. Here you can see a fair booth at around 1950 where he did radios, but also kitchen machines and shavers. From a design point of view, you might see it already. It's all very, let's call it traditional. It's wooden boxes which perfectly fit into living spaces at that time. Dark brown wood, many decorations, many elements on the product which might not really needed to use them, but to give them a certain style. The Braun logo before 55, it looked like that. You have this raised A, which is a transferation of at that time radio, the Volksempfänger, and they put it onto the logo. But you can say that there was no consistency within the logo, how to use it, how to deal with it on the products and also on the communication. So 1955, this is a very important date in the whole presentation. I call it wind of change. Why is that? Because suddenly Max Braun died. He had, at that time, a company with a few thousand employees, and his two sons, Erwin and Arthur, they had from one day to the other overtake the company. And they were in the mid of the 20s, so that was a big challenge for them. One of the two sons, Erwin, he had a very visionary mind. He wanted to renew the company. He was a lot into cultural activities. He was partnering with, at that time, modern Danish furniture companies. He was in New York talking to regisseurs, to theater people, and he had a very open-minded mind, and that kind of global thinking he wanted to bring into the company he now, from one day to the other, he overtook. So what he did, he hired experts from the German Bauhaus at that time to get consultants what he can do with his company. And also, not to neglect, I will come to this man later on, Dieter Rams, is started at Braun at that time. So many things came together at that time, which lead to a complete new face to the outside from Braun. With this fair booth in 1955 on the Düsseldorfer Funkausstellung, where, when you can imagine, the other fair booth, they looked like what you saw before, and then they came up with something like this. It was a super minimalistic fair booth, only done out of geometrical elements. It was a system which you could easy carry, easy erect. And inside this fair booth, they showed the first products out of this new kind of thinking, the Bauhaus thinking, the less is more approach. The products, they should fit into modern living spaces and not anymore looked like 100 years ago, heavy, decorated, dark brown. They should look the absolute opposite, light, geometric, super simple, state-of-the-art, nicely placed and arranged. So the products, they got more and more humanistic, even if they are geometrically done. So here another example of what happened during that time. We are talking about household products. So a jug blender before 1955 looked like that. Many elements, colored, lots of shapes, Braun logo somehow used in many ways, the button, old school. And this here is the absolute same technical platform, but they cleaned it up, they made it white, fitting much more into kitchen spaces, make it more hygienical and clean looking. The button, the graphics are nicely done, easy to understand and to see. The Braun logo is small, but when it's small and nothing is around, you will recognize it very, very well. And when I would not have shown you the date when this product was created, you might not have thought that this is 60 years old. Still, I would say that from a design and from a technical point of view, a valid form, which nowadays works also. So what they also did, they created and implemented guidelines for corporate identity, how to use the Braun logo, how to place it, to make a complete, consistent look all over the company, in the advertisement, on the products, within the company. So that was at that time not really known in companies. In addition, Erwin Braun established the first vegetarian cafeteria in Germany at Braun. So he was not only looking for nice products, but also wanted to give the employees a nice and human working place. So they had a gym hall, they can do recreation, and all these kind of things. So in the end, what you can say, that especially Erwin established an overarching humanistic approach to the products, to the employees, where they done, that all fit together. Here you can see old pictures from the design department. They were done in the 60s and 70s. At Braun, the focus was always on doing something which you have in hand, so physical models, mock-ups, that was essential in the design process, especially at that time. They had, beside the design department, a huge model shop where not only model makers worked, but the designers. They made their designs in the model shop. And this kind of habit is kept over decades, actually until now, where we still, when we do a design or product, we need to touch and feel it. In the 1960s, Braun had a broad range of products. This is an overview here. They were very big in hi-fi equipment. For sure, the kitchen section was big also at that time. They did cameras and flashlights, Super 8 systems, and here on the bottom, the whole grooming and shaving category, which Braun is still standing for as a global player. Beside Philips and Panasonic, Braun is on shavers brand number 1. Now I show you some products from the 60s to the 90s around, mostly household products. But I start with 2 radios to show this new way of thinking. This radio, the SK2, is a small compact kitchen radio designed in 1955. I have it in my kitchen. People ask me, hey, cool iPod station, where can I get it? I say, this is a 60-year-old radio. It functions both from a design side, but also from a technical side. And this is the amazing job they did at that time. So super sleek, super simple, geometric forms, highlighting the touch points where you can set the stations and the volume, and that's it, full stop. And then it's a nice object which is long-lasting, super simple. Also that, not sure whether you have seen it in your research, SK4 was following 1 year later. It was the first product of Dieter Rams, the designer. I will show you some more details soon. It's called the Snow White's Coffin. Why is that? Because for the first time they showed the technical components from this piano player due to a plexiglass lid, which was before covered and closed and store it away, don't show it, only bring it out when you use it. And here for the very first time they show this nice, poetic design. Also it was white, it was super strict, simple, linear, geometric elements like before. And I believe that this product is the most iconic product for Braun ever. And if you see one of those on a flea market, immediately buy it, because it's worth a few thousand of euros when it functions and the price goes up. Okay, coming to more household products here. This is from 65, convection heater. May you see something like from Apple here inside, like iMacs, from the approach, aluminum sheets, logo not even visible, so small, but you will somehow recognize it and see it. Super simple. At that time, the approach was to create qualitative products which serve as a silent butler. They are in the background when you don't need them. And if you need them, they do the job 100%. So not extroverted, but the opposite, introverted products. That was the approach. A water kettle, also here, geometric, pure, simple, this element. Now I repeat myself, but it is the philosophy behind the Braun products. Only form which stands out a little bit is the handle, but this kinked handle is due to the usability. So when it's a little bit tilted, you can access it much more easily than if it's straight. And this kinked or tilted handle became a signature element for all Braun kettles in the future also. Here you see an advertisement of that time. So may the products did not change a lot, but the habits and the people and the world turned around many, many times until now. So what you see here is the so-called Frankfurter kitchen. It was a kitchen created by German architects where they tried to create the best efficient working space for housewives. And over time, you know, the whole trends of green smoothie, of sharing flats, of Airbnb changed completely this. But the products, more or less, are the same. May the habits and the story around is different. The KM32 from 1964 is, I would call it, the mother of kitchen machines. From the archetype point of view, it's not changed until today. You have the bowl, you have kneading elements coming from the top, and you have the motor and interface area on the side. So this kind of architecture still we somehow use because it's the most efficient and sensible. KF20 is the most iconic kitchen appliance for Braun. Why? Because before, coffee makers were done in 2 silos. One silo was the water tank, cooking up, going to the side, and then rinsing down in a filter, extracting the coffee, and then pouring into a carafe. So 2 silos. And here what they did at that time, for the first time, they brought this principle in 1 silo, which means water on the top, brewing below, processing, extracting in the filter here, and then going down in the carafe. So from the semantic point of view, going from top to down with the advantage of a very small footprint. The space you need on your countertop is much less on this than on the other machines. And for sure stands out, or at least at that time, because it's a new it's a new visual appearance or new design. The problem here was on that product, you see the 2 aluminum poles. Inside the aluminum poles, there's the power cable, on each pole 1, because the heater is on top. And from a manufacturing, it was very hard to fiddle in the cables inside the poles. So that makes the product very hard to manufacture and very expensive. And after 2 years, or a little bit longer, the KF40 was in the 80s, on the same principle, 1 silo, Braun achieved to make it more efficient in terms of manufacturing. The housing is out of plastic. There's another silo on the back side, the tank, merged together to 1. From the front view, still you have this kind of view. And this machine is copied from many, many competitors, and it's still in production, unchanged, like that. It's from the 80s. And I believe this coffee machine works in a garage as well in a loft house in LA, as it is so universal. Here, a coffee grinder under the same principle, nothing to add on this, as explained before many times. Braun was, or still is, big in irons, and this was the first one in the 80s. In hand blenders, I sent you the parcel with some hand blenders. Braun is brand number 1 in terms of hand blenders. At that time, they were done out of 1 piece. Now we split the attachments from the main housing, as it makes sense in terms of cleanability. To you can put the attachment into the dishwasher also. Maybe the whole geometry, the whole form giving is very geometric here. Now I explain you later, we changed a little bit this approach. Not completely, but a little bit. Here. This is my most beloved product from Braun, the citrus press, MPZ 22. It's from 1972, 1 year before my birth. So over 40 years, still in production, nothing changed, not even the technique inside. It's still the same principle of motor. And from a design, we replaced the tools from time to time because they were worn out. And usually when you change the tools, the designer has a chance to change the design also. But we never touched it because it works well. And this is recognized not only by ourselves. Here's a statement which in a few words says that this design is perfectly done. The design expresses 100% what it is meant for. It's not shouting too much, it's not hiding too much its back, and so on and so forth. So it felt complete and it felt right. And the statement was done by Jonathan Ive, the head of Apple Design, you all know. So this is a great feedback for us if someone, a person like him is saying that. And here I put 2 slides in. to show that Apple design is inspired by the Braun design. In Steve Jobs' biography, he mentions also that in the design studio at Apple, in the 90s, they bought a broad range of Braun products to study them, to study the philosophy behind, and they put many, let's say, ideas for their own products, how to deal with materials, how to implement in the design, and for sure how to create a product architecture for their products. I think these are the most obvious examples. On the left, there's a portable radio from '55 and the first iPod. And this is the famous calculator from Braun, the ET33. And it was, must say, in this case, it was copied on the iPhone. On the other things, I would call it inspiration, but okay. So, but it's very good for us to get the recognition outside if such a great big company get the inspiration out of our products. So, and here he is. This is the mastermind behind this big story of Braun. It is Dieter Rams. Dieter Rams was chief designer at Braun for almost 40 years. So mostly he is behind all these products, even if they are for sure a big staff of designers worked at that time also. And Dieter Rams, he's now 85 years old. We are personally in good contact with Dieter. He lives in the same town as Braun is, and once a year we visit him to just chat with him, to get his opinion for sure also on the things we are doing. And he's still a brilliant mind and a clear mind, and it's fascinating talking and discussing with him. In the 80s, he established 10 principles of good design. So for him, a good design is, I just read it from top to bottom, is innovative. So making only a design which looks nice but has no innovative aspects, either from the technical side or from the usage side, it's not a good design for him. A good design makes a product useful, this is for granted, is aesthetically balanced, is understandable. What helps if you make a nice product and no one understands it, but you? This is not good. Good design is unobtrusive, what I explained on the convection heater, is honest, is long-lasting, like these examples before, is thorough down to the last detail. There's also a saying which we often use, which means the sum of details makes the product. You don't have the product and there's a nice, well-done detail. It's one detail after the other. And if you count them, then it reaches a certain level and the product then gets a quality or has no quality. Is environmentally friendly. In this case, we at Braun say, for sure, we cannot create products which after usage they vanish away by themselves. What our contribution here is that we have products which people are not throwing away after 1 or 2 years, that they last for much, much longer time. This is always our approach. And good design is as little design as possible, which means start from very little elements and step by step there are elements added to it. It's a process. And when they reach a certain level, full stop, and then the design is done. These products, which you saw before, are also exhibited in the MoMA, Museum of Modern Art in New York, in the permanent exhibition. Here are some radios and speakers from that time. Okay, so that was little bit the past. It was a glimpse of it. Could have told much, much more. Here we focus on the household section and where we are today. Not sure, as you might know, Braun got a little bit of Italian. As 4 years ago, DeLonghi bought in from Braun the whole section of household products, which means we are still in Germany. We still have a staff of 200 people working on the household products for Braun. But very often I go to Treviso, to my new headquarter, DeLonghi, and we discuss there the projects. DeLonghi is now called DeLonghi Group. Here's the official store in Milano. May you know better than me because I haven't been there yet, but I should. Yeah, you should go there. Here you can study all the products which you see now, and for sure also the DeLonghi products. To the DeLonghi Group, there's also Kenwood kitchen appliances existing. They bought Kenwood 10 years ago, now Braun, and for sure DeLonghi as the old Italian brand is now merged together to the so-called DeLonghi Group. This is the company I work for in the overarching, it's DeLonghi Group. Here you see the three headquarters. It's in Havant, Kenwood, Braun, Frankfurt area, DeLonghi, Treviso. May you can remember the picture I showed before, the kitchen, the housewife, as explained. The product is still a mixer, it's processing, but the user is completely different over the last 50 years. And this is the essential trigger in our whole story, how we can address our products still to those people and to much, much more people around the world with completely different cultural background, with completely different living habits. And here, this guy, when you would have made a picture 50 years ago to 2015, you might not have thought that someone is sharing an apartment, is doing green smoothies, is not eating meat anymore, all these kind of things completely changed. And this is the interesting part on our project here, to understand how you guys are using this kind of things, how you believe this can make a difference for you and contribute to your lifestyle. And for sure, as designers, what can we squeeze out of the products we have now to make them more futuristic, more better, a little bit different. And this wheel is always turning on, and this wheel, for Braun, we always have to jump on, otherwise we just do decorational stuff, which is not really touching the heart of the product. For Braun Design, a few years ago, we were at a point where we said, okay, the 10 principles of Dieter are good, but maybe we have to turn it into a nowadays language. 10 principles sounds a little bit like church and too oppressive. And then we established or transferred them into the design theme, Strength of Pure. We made a huge manifest where we tried to capture this way of thinking in a different way. It's a little book. And here I picked out one page where when we design products, we try to achieve a common design language for all our products. For example, the on-off switch. We believe the circle and the logo nicely placed is the ideal and best understandable on-off logo for our products. And then we always use this kind of button for all products. We never changed. Because why? It's the best on-off switch. When it comes to interface elements, now we very often use racetrack shapes, circular elements on the hand mixers, on the hand blenders, on the jug blenders, on the irons. So we will never change this. Maybe a little bit, but always in a way that it looks familiar. That all products, on first glance, when you cover the Braun logo, looks more or less similar. It's comes from one family, comes from one brain. There's one common understanding behind it. The same for the icons, we're not changing that. When it comes to cooling ribs, we try to keep them very straight and linear and geometric. Maybe there's one little difference in the products which are standing on the countertop. They are very strict and linear and geometric, like small houses. When it comes to products which you have to hold for a longer time in your hand, for sure, the ergonomics, it needs to function. And when you just have a cylinder here on the irons, or here, maybe that's too less of helping the hand to find its perfect position. So here we have some surfaces which are freeforms. This we called fluid geometry, because even if it's a freeform, we try again to capture it or hold it a little bit by geometric elements. So this is a little glimpse of our new design consistence or design language. We have much, much more. For household, we are a relatively small team. We are 6 designers. On the left side, you see Fong. He's the boss. He's my boss. And I used to work with Fong since 15 years already. And these are the other designers, Julia, Britta, Shirin, Sven. And here you can see Dieter came to visit us, and we had a conversation about our products, which he liked, I must say. This is a great honor. This is a page, okay. We achieved in the last 3 years, I counted yesterday, 85 design awards for our products. And this year we had the great honor to be the design team of the year. This is a great feedback for us to be on the right way or to make the things somehow right. Because sometimes you do something and you believe in it, and the process of a product is usually when you start sketching to the launch in the market, it's 2 or 3 years. And for sure, you look in a glass bowl when you start a project and you don't know, is it the right way? Is it successful? Will it be sold? Will it be accepted? And now you see much more and more products coming from us on the market. And so far we received some positive feedback on that. So here I will show you some current products. They were also in the parcels sent to you, some of them at least. When we started 4 years ago with ThehistoryofBraun, we looked in the products we already have and we said, somehow there are older products which are still good from design, from technical point. Let's try to put them together and call it Tribute Collection. And that was the start we did. We looked around, there were like the kitchen machine, the KM32, the mixer, some food processors like the juice, the citrus juicer, hand blender. And what we did, we have chosen a very fresh and very shouting green to show off this is a new. This is not the old one from 20 years ago, but this is new. And on some products, we were able to change a little bit the form, where we believed it makes more sense here to have straight walls, to here on this we change the knobs to make it matching more to this. And with the possibilities we had at that time, we made it one collection which is called the Tribute Collection. In one sentence, it's the good old products from Braun, still working well, still okay. For good money, you get a good product. On the other hand, we made, in parallel, worked on the identity collection, which was or is the collection. It's in the market since 2 years for a higher price. On these products, you will get a better performance as the motors are better and the technology is better. And from a design factor, we are playing more with black and stainless steel metal parts. From the whole communication about the interfaces, we are more precise. You have more settings available as on the Tribute collection here. So we played in these two areas. The first development for the iron category was the new steam station, Care Style 5 we called it. It's now since 1 year on the market. Here the approach was the following. Usually a steam station or ironing system exists out of two pieces, the base and the iron. And Philips, for example, what they do, the iron has to have a certain shape which is once ergonomic but also kind of peaky in order to reach specific points on the garment. And what they did, the base looked also in line often with the iron. So it's one flow when it's putting together. But when you put the iron away, you see a base which is very dynamic, shaped, and you ask yourself, why? And that's why we did the opposite. We did a super geometric, solid base and an iron, which for sure has to fulfill some dynamic forms. And due to the detailing, we bring these two together. So it's not excluding the, the matching together when you do this approach. You always have to think what else then can you do to make these things getting one piece of object. In addition, 1 year after, we did Care Style 3. Here also geometrical, but more rounded, as it is a lower price point. So we go more soft, but still geometric. Here you can see it from the side. This handle was in heavy discussion when we designed it. They asked us, marketing, can't we do it more integrated? This looks like a handle when a child will draw it. And then we said, hey, this is super. When a child is regarding this as a handle, then everybody else will also. So this is the most honest handle we can achieve here. And it's super safe. This water tank, when you pull it out, weighs 2 kilograms. And 2 kilograms to carry from a water tap to a steam station somewhere in a different room is, you cannot do fancy something tiny little. So we succeeded with our simple puristic form. Hand mixer was also one we further then developed. The speciality here is the motor is on the front side, that when you hold it, the counterbalance is such that the mixer wants to go into the bowl, which is much easier to mix the things then, because it's falling down by itself. Yeah, this is the mixer 1, is coming also soon. Here we have launched 2 products, especially for US market, a coffee maker and a jug blender. This market is a little bit special, as Americans, they have a very high level of safety understanding when it comes to products. So not only you have to make them super safe, but also from the perceived impression, they should fulfill in your head, this mixer is not falling over, the buttons are somehow placed not too close on the heating element, and so on. So that was very special project, and then on the other side you have your brand values which you have to bring in, and when you not having too less from the one or from the other. Somehow you have to meet the middle. Yeah, here's the interface from the chuck blender. American people very much like programs, buttons, rather than turning knobs. Turning knobs, in their mind, is old-fashioned, is delivering less individuality or settings, and so we had to implement an interface.
This was a marketing request? Or?
We did a product research in America, especially on these two. We created each of them for design, and we went to LA, Chicago, and New York and tested with consumers how they react on the designs. And this was a clear outcome that they rejected the turning knob.
Are these products only sold in America or also in Europe, Asia?
This I saw this morning in the Lufthansa. So this is in Europe available, and this in a little bit different form in spring we will launch. Yeah, this is also what happens. You design for a specific country, and then someone likes it, and then it's sold everywhere. We will see how successful this will be. It is somehow special. Here's a squared form. Usually we had cylinders or racetrack shapes. Oops. And for America, we especially had to design this more rectangular shape. Timer was super important to set the time the day before, that the machine prepares the coffee in the morning when you wake up. This is less important in Europe. Okay. We were there. This is the hand blender range. We have in total 8 different models of hand blenders, from very low price point to higher price point. We just launched this autumn the new Multi-Quick 9, which is a new design, but it has a special feature which was developed by our engineers. You can, by pulling the hand blender down, you can move the blades. So these blades here, they move up and down, which allows a better mixing performance. And when the engineers came along with this idea, from a design point of view, for sure, you want to highlight this element. That's what you see then here. It's like this element showcases something is happening there. And the analogy here was the suspension of cars or pneumatic movements. Even more highlighted by the green ring to set some focus on it. And the performance is much better than on other hand blenders. Here you see the full picture. Okay. Also, now this is a little bit to conclude. We look also a little bit in the future. This is also why we do the project with you. What is the future? And we have established in our design team a function called Design Lab, where we look in the future and try to create new concepts, new ideas for Braun. What we usually do as designers, we go to fairs, we try to observe trends and lifestyles. This is provocative, just to show what we do. As explained, as this kind of lifestyles changed all the time and much faster than the years before, and you always have to catch up what's outside to make your products fitting to the needs and habits of the users or of the people. And it's a little bit the look into a glass bowl. We don't know what it could be, but always when we have ideas or concepts in mind, make them in a way tangible, which means when you have an idea, you have to describe it, you have to explain it, that someone else will understand. We as designers, we have the tools in hand to visualize, to create models, to explain functions, to make these ideas accessible also. And this is a design team. Beside our daily work to make the products or projects I just showed, we have our side projects in the design lab where we just think by ourselves, where we find the time to present also to the technical teams, to inspire marketing teams. And once a year, we do a so-called innovation day where we showcase all these ideas. We make little presentations like you guys do when you show your semester work. And there was one slide more. Yeah. And this we try to implement, and we never stop with that. This partnership here is one pillar we now do. And I'm really excited to see where we go with you, with this project. We have our target groups as consumers, which are actually a little bit older than you are. Mostly people are a lot into the food preparing stories. Are people having a family, having a house, an apartment where they have to cook for others? Or it's more people, they are pretty much into the whole food preparation. But I must say we never touched the younger groups. What is their observation? What is their needs and habits? And this is the interesting or exciting aspect, at least for me, how we will end up here in the next weeks, months with this project. So, grazie mille. Sono finito. Domande? Yeah. Yes, please.
I have a question about the scale of technical details you have to reach for the deadline we have to...
For this project, you mean? I mean, let's call it like this. If you have an idea, a concept, and then you're working on the concept based on whatever. For sure, ideally, if the concept is a kind of crazy and it requires a certain technical background, it would be good to at least prove, not 100%, but to give an idea, this concept could work. It's a new startup company somewhere doing, I don't know, motors in this size, I don't know, the laser cutting blades, whatever. If you show off examples, maybe not at the moment dedicated to kitchen appliances, but in other fields, and then you can say, hey, look, they are, I don't know, tree cutters, and they cut the trees with a laser. Why don't we cut our carrots then with a laser or something, and then build the bridge? But you don't need to prove it 100%, but at least to give a glimpse, yes, and not to end up in a super futuristic scenario.
Yes, we are now in a sort of concept design stage. At the end of this workshop, together within the design group, we will select some of the concept to be developed also in your personal design project. So this maybe is a step-by-step or a sequences of detailing the project. At the moment we are expecting some concept, just because the time that we have, it's not enough to develop something.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So be visionary and be open.
Yeah. No, I mean, overall, I believe that when I go back to Braun and I sit in our company, maybe it's sometimes that you are too narrow thinking to the products you have, to your habits, to what is out, and this I really would love to wish to engage you to think different. At the first glance, be really crazy. Over time, I believe it will come closer and closer, and then we will be more realistic. But for us, Braun, it's interesting to get the different views, the different Googles you put on, which we don't have, because we are too much into our own world. Yeah.
Other questions? No one?
Anche in italiano? Yeah.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Just going back to the product for the American market.
Yes.
Which is, because you promised to us to discuss about the process, the real process.
Yeah.
The process.
Yes.
So, how is the relation between the marketing,
Yeah.
which was the timing of this kind of project,
Okay.
and then what I have seen is that you don't change the typology. You work in defined typology. If you don't change the function, you work something that is providing a brand experience within some defined typology of products. Why this? Is because is the marketing that asked for that, or because the company?
Okay. May I explain step by step how this project became true, or why it is now there? Okay, the background is Braun was in the US market very big in the 80s, 90s. Then, because the market is very special, they stepped out. People in the US, they know Braun. We did a research also just on the brand awareness and on Braun, and they know it. They knew it from the past. And they regard it as a reliable German brand, the German engineering and craftsmanship, all these kind of things which you usually relate to something positive when it comes to products. And then DeLonghi Braun said, let's try to go back to US market, because DeLonghi tried and they failed, because the brand awareness of DeLonghi was less, or the products were not suiting well. And so we were asked to do the most common kitchen appliance products, which is a coffee maker and a jug blender. The Americans, they like doing smoothies a lot. Ice crushing is in every household. You see a jug blender, which at least in Germany is not so common. And so we were asked to design these two products. We made an analysis of benchmark, what is out. There's like the big players, KitchenAid, Cuisinart, Breville, and we looked for sure how do they design their products. And we got already a glimpse that, for example, the coffee maker needs to be squared, needs to have lots of metal elements, and needs to have buttons and a timer. We saw that by our own studies. But to prove this own observation, we said we will do a research in America with our designs, because we are not quite secure. This was also triggered by marketing to do it. So the design department, in this case, we created 4 different design concepts, mostly different architectural types, like a racetrack footprint, a round, as we had it already, this one, and what was the last? I think it was also round with different interface elements. And then there are agencies out where you can usually partnering with and can do such kind of research. We created a questionnaire with them, and as designers we wanted to understand how do people react. So I went there with 4 mock-ups done by the model shop from DeLonghi. They were very heavy. I had it in my suitcases, because for sure, like always in design, it's done in last minute and could not ship. It was very heavy. Went to LA, we went to agency, and then we asked in LA, in Chicago, in New York, in total 150 people. With these agencies, you usually can ask for a special type of target group. In this case, it was the families in the US, having kids, income from average $1,000, having a house. They also have to describe how their kitchen looked like. And then the agency helps to find those people, and then they come for an interview. Each interview was 10 minutes, and then they looked at the designs, and we showed also KitchenAid and Cuisinart, and then they talked about it. There was not a ranking like I like this 10 and I hate this 1. It was more you had to listen to them and understand what is between the lines. And the outcome was, as explained, we were actually in our already own observation, we were reinforced. Actually, that were the key bullets, what I just explained to do. But then you have the design language, you have your equity, you have your 10 rules of data, and then you have to make this product in a Braun way. What we received so far is that this kind of product is much better understood in terms of usage than the KitchenAids and Cuisinarts, because the buttons are more clearer ordered. We did internal researches also to let people use the product and understand how they use it, and then we shifted around the button arrangement and the size of the clock and how to set it. Yeah, and then the design was more or less then proved, and beside a few details then the research was in 2030 spring, and it was launched this year, so 3 years, exactly 3 years. This is the normal lead time.
Tested some functionality. The product were functional or
only appearance, design, size, impression, and so on. And yeah, and this was, you can say that roughly 3 years is the average timeline for a project, depends on the complexity. For sure, there are products with a more innovative aspect, like the hand blender with the movement. This took, this took 5 years to develop, this suspension. And you may not imagine, this bell here looks a little bit organic or floristic. This is not because the designer was falling in love with someone and was more in the flowerish way. This was a process of more than 20 years to come up with this form in terms of how the puree is mixing and to have the right, the fluid not splashing out. And on hand blenders, what happens when you don't have these holes, they suck on the bottom of the pot because of the vacuum effect. And then you have to develop the right balance of not sucking, not splashing, but still quilling the ingredients in the best way. So they started in the 80s. Yeah, Timmy.
Research with users, did you change something, anything?
Okay.
Just a confirmation of your ideas?
Yeah, we changed a little bit. I think this design concept looked 90% as it is now. This was more straightforward. On the jug blender, we changed here and there some things. Especially, you see, this is a kind of, we call it always balcony, which gives you a more secure impression of the whole. The Braun jug blender for Europe is the cylinder, which stands super perfect. But when you see them side by side, this from a perceived point of view is much more stable on the table. And this was a super important aspect for the Americans. And this balcony looked a little bit different. We were not the biggest friends as designers, must say that, for this concept. But okay, if your target group, where you design for, is saying that this is an important aspect, you somehow have to fulfill these needs or wishes. And then in the very last moment, this is our design process, which is aligned by everybody in the company. Everybody understands it, marketing, design, quality, R&D, how a design process looks like. And we start, first of all, for whom are we designing? And this is Maria Sophie, just to pick two. Then you create ideas, the lighthouse for the who's. What is a possible interest for them? Then you select some of those, as explained, and you jump into the so-called advanced design phase, where technicians, designers, also marketing are asked to make it more tangible. This is the first step, what we will do in the next 1.5 weeks, to think around, what can it be? And then you have your vision. And then you select again, and then you come to the 5 years master plan. What kind of products are we able to develop? What kind of products are needed outside? And then we have this 5 years master plan, always, has priorities, and then we implement. And these lines are the different functions: design, R&D, marketing, quality. They all then work in parallel for sure, but everybody has to deliver the concepts. And finally, lead to a result and to a product.
Okay.
Finito? Thank you very much.